Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Cheri and today is national or international, I can't remember which one. It's either international or national beer. Either way, it is beer day today. But it's also super simple Saturday, and for one, I don't know how to make beer, and two, if I did, it's probably not simple. So we are not gonna make beer, we're gonna use beer and we're gonna make caramels today. We're gonna make some salted beer caramels. So I think it sounds delicious. I think it sounds a little weird. But anyway, if this is your first time here, you love food and fun, go ahead, hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell, and check below for details on how subscribing helps to feed the hungry. Okay, so before we get started on our caramels, if you've been watching this week, I got some hard root beer. So it's kind of like beer, but it's a little bit sweeter. It's kind of like root beer, actually. So I used this to make a hard root beer float. We also did root beer float cookies this week. I've got another recipe coming up. I'm going to use this. This isn't something that I normally would drink, but I do like to cook with it. So and today we're going to use this for the caramel. So I think it's going to be really good. I know you can make caramels. A lot of people use like a, an IP or something like that. I don't really care for those, and I don't want anything that's really stout. So I think because this is more like root beer, it's actually going to be really, really good. All right, so before we get started though on our caramels, a couple of things. You want to get all your stuff ready to go, because once this starts moving along, you got to keep stirring it constantly, or you take a risk on scorching and ruining all your caramels. So one thing I like to have is a bowl of ice water here. And for one, once these little sugar crystals start to form around the edge of the pan, if those slide down and they get into your caramels, it actually can ruin the whole batch. So we like to take a little bit of water and a brush and we just kind of run it around there, and it makes them dissolve in a sense. The other reason I like to keep it on hand is if you've ever gotten a candy burn, it is like one of the worst burns in the world. So I like to keep a bowl of ice water. If I need to throw my hand in there or splash it on my arm or whatever, I've got it there just in case. You're also going to need a candy thermometer. A heavy saucepan. So I like to use one that has a really heavy, it's heavy on the bottom, so it helps to keep from burning the caramels. All right, 2 cups of brown sugar, 1 cup of corn syrup, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, and then 12 ounces of your favorite beer. So you don't have to use the root beer. You can use whatever your favorite beer happens to be. We have a local brewery here in town, Main and Mill, and they had, I don't know if they still have it, but it was made with peppers. I think it had jalapeno in it. It was delicious. I would have liked to try that in here. Anyway, I've got my 2 sticks of butter. They are already melting down, so I'm going to add in 2 cups of brown sugar. And we're just going to get to stirring this together. I really don't need the thermometer yet, so I'll go ahead and take that out of there. And actually, I usually use an instant read thermometer. I have one from Pampered Chef. It has the thermometer right on the thing, so you can stab your meat or whatever you're checking the temperature on. But it also has a long cord that has the thermometer on the end, so you can leave it in the oven and set the other part of the thermometer on the outside of the oven and see. So a lot of times I use that and clip it on here. That way I can see exactly what the temperature is without trying to. Sometimes this thing gets all steamy and it's really hard to read, so I prefer that. But I couldn't find the other part today, so so I just use my old-fashioned candy thermometer. So this is starting to melt, and we are doing this over medium heat. Gosh, it looks like a beautiful caramel syrup already. Butter and sugar. Is there a better combination? I don't know. Butter and garlic. I like that a lot too. All right, so once all of the butter is completely melted and it's mixed in with our brown sugar, then we're going to add our beer, our corn syrup, and our condensed milk, and we're going to add them in that order, and we're going to do it really, really carefully. So just like I said, like the crystals form on the side, we don't want this to splash and go everywhere and make a mess of that. We really want to try to do this really gently. And once you start to stir these other products in, you really can't walk away from this. You really got to stay here with it. So it's really simple to do. It does take a little bit of time. I'll tell you, I think this every time I make caramels or any kind of candy, I always think, oh my God, this is never, it'll start to boil pretty quickly. But then after it starts to boil, it just kind of hovers there for a long time. And then when it gets closer to like the stage that it's supposed to be at, it seems like it speeds up at the end. But it really just seems like once it's been boiling for, 10, 15 minutes, you should be at the temperature you need to be at. And it's not. Sometimes it takes 20, 25 minutes. All right, so we've got that stirred in. I'm going to add my corn syrup now. We'll get that stirred in. Oh, a couple other ingredients I have also. Now, you don't have to coat these in chocolate. I like to coat them in chocolate. So I just buy the packages of almond bark. And what I've realized is when I'm coating stuff in the dark chocolate versus like the white almond bark you can get, it's so dark looking, like it still tastes like milk chocolate, but it's just really, really dark. So what I did today was I mixed half white chocolate or white almond bark and half of the dark together. And then I've also got some, my Malden salt that I just love. So it's sea salt flakes that I'm going to be putting on here. And then I also have, it says a 9x13 pan. I actually have one of my stones from Pampered Chef. Because it's so shallow, it makes it really easy to get in there. So I've noticed before, you know, once we get done cooking these, we're going to pour them in a pan. And you can do a 9x13 pan. Make sure you line it with parchment paper. But when you go to get in there and get the whole thing out, it kind of wrinkles up on you. With this, it's so much easier for me to get in there and cut those, or to lift the whole thing out. So that's why I prefer to do it in there. So my caramels might be a little bit shorter, but that's okay. We're going to coat them in chocolate anyway. All right, so last ingredient for now. We're still going to add some vanilla, but we're going to wait till we pull it off the heat to do that. All right, and that is it. So now we're just going to keep stirring constantly. I'm going to put my thermometer back in, and we're going to keep stirring and letting this heat up, and we want this to go all the way to 240 degrees. So we're just now reaching about 200. It's got a little bit of ways to go, but as you can see, it's kind of coming up the sides there. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to wash this down real quick. So just all the way around the pan, just to dissolve any of those crystals that might be on there. All right, so we're going to continue to stir, and hopefully we'll be up to 240 here shortly. All right, so it's still just a little over 200, still has a little bit to go. But as you can see, it's got a really nice roll and boil now. And at this stage, you'll really start to feel it thicken across the bottom of the pan. And so that's why you don't want to walk away. You want to make sure that you're continuously stirring, because that will scorch on the bottom. And you'll start to see it turn a little bit of a darker color also. So let's check our temperature again. Like I said, once it cooks at this stage for a while, you kind of think to yourself, my gosh, it's got to be done. It's been boiling forever. And it'll just kind of hold around 200. And then once it gets past, I don't even remember how long. I haven't done this in a while. But it's like once it gets close to the, you know, where it's done, then it seems like it goes real fast right at the end. So we are, that's 240. We're right about 220. And the smell of it starts to change just a little bit. All right, I think we are there. So I'm going to take my thermometer out. I'm going to go ahead and take this off the heat, turn off my burner, and then we're just going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm using the real vanilla this time for this. We're going to stir that in. Be careful, it'll bubble up when you put it in there. Make sure we've got this stirred really well. I'm going to push my burner out of the way. And then we're going to grab our pan that has our parchment paper in it. Oh, look how nice and thick that is. Such a beautiful color. And then I'm just going to pour this right down in here. Kind of scrape out my pot here, or my pan. And that is it. So we are just going to let this sit until it sets up and it's firm enough that we can cut it into little squares. Okay, my caramels have been cooling. Well, they've been cool for a while. I've just been letting them sit, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours now. So I covered it with some aluminum foil and it got stuck. So make sure, and I did spray it, but I must not have sprayed it very well. So if you're going to put something over the top of it, make sure that it's not going to stick. So I'm going to use these pieces of aluminum foil though. I'm going to make a little place to flip my caramels out on. Hopefully, hopefully it works. I'm going to spray it really, really, really good this time. And then I just went around. I have never been really good at cutting these and keeping them all even. I know there's probably a tool out there to do it. But I don't know what it is and I don't have it. So I just kind of went around the edge, loosened all this up. I just put a dent in it. And then I'm going to try to flip this over and pray that, pray it works. We'll see. Okay. Wish me luck. Oh, shoot. I did it. Not as successfully as I wanted to, but I think it's okay. So now I'm just going to pull off the parchment paper. And these are like really, really chewy caramels. And it looks like my parchment paper stuck as well. I'm gonna get a knife and run it under here. Usually parchment paper doesn't stick, but this is candy. It's not a cookie, so. Maybe if I would have set this, it's pretty warm today, so maybe if I would have put this in the cooler, the fridge or something and let it set up, it might not be so chewy. But that's okay. We're gonna cover these in chocolate anyway. Let's give this a taste while it's on my finger. You can taste the root beer. It's really good. All right, I'll meet you back here in a second. It's going to take me a little bit to get all this off of here. Okay, I got it off of there. I smoothed it all back out. So now we have to cut it. So I'm thinking, I'm going to spray this. This is actually a cake mover. But instead of me trying to cut and slide with a knife, then I cut almost the whole length of it with this. Let's spray this too. I'm going to use this as like maybe like a ruler sort of. So I'm going to lay it on there, press this down. See if it comes back out. Yay. Same thing again. So I'm just kind of making my markings. And I may have to spray this again. I'm not sure. All right, so we're just going to mark all the way through to the other side now. We're trying to keep these somewhat uniform in size. All right, so I'm going to see if I can get this off of here while I've got it separated. So from here, I'm just going to cut them into little squares. Okay, I think I have decided, since our caramel has such a soft texture, which isn't a bad thing, I think I'm going to use a scoop and do this instead. If I can find it. Let's see, do I need this one? The baby one? One of these. This might be like really big caramels. Let's try this. I think this will work better. Oh, we should have sprayed it first. But yeah, I think I can pack a little bit in here. Scrape it off. Yeah. Yes, I think that's much better. And then we can dip those in chocolate. Yay. All right. Maybe I didn't need to spray it. It's not really sticking to this, so. All right. Or maybe I should. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to go through here, and I am going to make little scoops of our caramel. And when I get all these done, then we'll start coating them in chocolate. Okay, so we had a little change of plans. It was taking forever. Those little teeny tiny scoops. And the caramel is just so soft. So I'm thinking the next time I make this, number one, I will use my instant read thermometer versus my old candy thermometer. Maybe it's off a little bit. I'm not sure. Or, you know, this is kind of a new recipe. So maybe it just needed to cook a little bit longer. So I might try that next time. I mean, it's still good, being really soft and all, but I just had other plans for it. I really thought I was going to make salted caramels and cover them with chocolate. So now we're going to make turtles. So I'm just taking all of these, and actually what I did was I took half of the caramel and I stuck it, I rolled it up and put it in the fridge and saved it. Maybe I can make caramel apples or something out of that. I don't know. So I decided just to make everything easy, we're just going to shove some pecans in here. So that way it helps to give the caramel a little bit of structure, something to hold on to so it doesn't just spread everywhere. And then once we get all of our pecans in here, we can go ahead and we have enough out here. A couple more. All right. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of chocolate right over the top. Kind of smooth it out. So I'll finish these real quick. All right, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move these onto a cookie sheet, and then I'll put them in the freezer probably so they set up just a little bit faster. All right, finally I'm done, or at least for a little bit.
I still have the other half in the fridge. But I think these turned out really, really good. And I actually made 2 batches. So you can imagine how many caramels this recipe would make. So I might actually half this recipe next time, except we put a full bottle of beer in there. So I would have to drink the other half since we're going to use half in the recipe. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 30. So if you just did little squares of caramel, I bet this makes about 75 caramels or more. Anyway, I think they turned out decent. They're not the prettiest things in the world, but all right, let's give one of these a try. These are so unique in flavor. I'm not sure if I had made these myself that I would know unless somebody told me that's root beer. And you don't taste the alcohol at all. I mean, like, it's cooked out. It's cooked perfectly. Other than it's a little on the soft side. But, man, the flavor. And I'm glad I turned them into turtles because I think the nuttiness of the pecans goes really well with the root beer. So these would make a perfect, well, if they were a little prettier, they'd make a perfect gift for somebody. Anyway, let me know what you think about those. I mean, I know what kind of a job I did on these, but I think they're still a win because they're really, really good. So I hope y'all give them a try. I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.